Pass that.
Oh hey, didn't see you there.
Yo, what up? It's Say My Name.
Yo, what's up? It's Whipped Cream.
What's up, guys? This is Riot Tish.
This is Blunts and Blondes.
My name's Allison Wonderland.
Sullivan King here.
Yo, this is Hesh.
This has been TRILLVO.
And you're watching TRILLVO.com.
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 You're logged into TRILLVO.com.
And you're watching TRILLVO.com.
Disillusionize me, Captain.
Hey, this is Sina with TRILLVO, and I'm zooming with our October Artist of the Month, Masteria. And fun fact, we actually interviewed him 1 year ago at Freaky Deaky, so I'm super excited to catch up with him and hear about all the mass hysteria he's caused in the last year.
Love it. What's up? I'm super happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And it is an honor to be your guys' Artist of the Month.
Of course, I'm so glad to have you back. It feels like to me, Ship was just yesterday, but also a lifetime ago, and I can't believe that's the last time I saw you.
I know, but it was a great way to really, it was a really awesome festival to attend right before everything kind of shut down. But yeah, Friendship, that was probably one of my favorite festivals I've ever been to. That was amazing.
It really is, and it kind of like set the bar for 2020, and I keep thinking about like the buffet and like drinking champagne off of random strangers, and like later now it's like, okay, please don't come near me, I have to wear my mask, and it's like really crazy different.
Oh God, things have changed quite a bit. Yeah.
They really have. So even though, you know, everyone hasn't kind of been playing like live shows and stuff, you really have been killing it with music. You've been putting out a lot of stuff. So how have you found like the will, I guess, to stay creative during this time?
Well, that's a good question, because there's definitely times that I felt discouraged, and I know that a lot of people feel discouraged, because I think I'm like a lot of other producers in that, like, one of my favorite parts is the live events, playing the music and having it connect with people and being able to interact with fans and meet them. So there have been parts where it has kind of felt like, where's the light at the end of the tunnel? But at the end of the day, making music, the actual act of like producing, is one of my favorite parts. And I still have been able to connect with people who like the music online in all sorts of cool ways, like through live streams. I was doing like feedback streams for producers. I've been a lot more active on like Instagram and my socials, being able to connect with them because I have more time available. So yeah, just finding joy in everything I can and every part of the music that we still can do. That's really what's been driving me forward.
Oh, I love that.
Thank you.
I saw you picked up skateboarding. Have you picked up any other hobbies?
Yeah, quite a few. Skateboarding is one. I used to love skateboarding, and I just like got out of it, and I'm like, there's no better time, because I've been feeling like just cramped in the house for a little bit. Like, the gym was closed. I was doing yoga before this, and yoga studios are closed. So I've been like running, been doing a lot more cooking. Just got a crock pot, so I've been experimenting with that.
I saw your stories. You've become quite a good cook. I can't wait for you to open up like your cantina one day or something.
Oh God, that is literally the dream. Everyone in my family talks about it. They all know it's coming. It's gonna be great. There's gonna be awesome free chips and salsa when you get in. The guac is gonna be amazing. There's going to be some house music shows every weekend. Yeah. So that's another thing that's keeping me motivated, is my Mexican restaurant dream.
That's so funny, because actually when I was getting ready, since I was so stressed, since I was running late, I was like, man, I wish I had a margarita. And I was like, wow, we should do like Margarita Mondays with Masteria, and everyone gets on the Zoom and like you guys can like taste test and talk about your homemade margaritas and like try to identify which ones you guys are going to feature at your restaurant.
I would love that. A little sampling. That is an amazing idea. I'm gonna write that down. I love it.
Yeah, because I was like, man, I could really go for a margarita right now. And I was like, wait, margarita Monday with Masteria? That'd be awesome.
It's got all the M's, checks all the boxes.
Right. So besides skateboarding, you really still are just producing music and trying to stay, you know, in the game, right?
Yeah, lots of producing, lots of yeah, I've been trying to get into nature a little bit too. Like for my birthday, I went out to Colorado and went to the mountains there. Had some really awesome experiences over there. And then yeah, I'm playing basketball. There's a lot of outdoor stuff because like just sitting inside all day, you can kind of start to go crazy just looking at the computer screen. So
It's nice being outside though, you know, when you're so used to being in like dark clubs.
yeah, it is.
You're going outside,
really
it's like
nice.
nature and like nice and pretty and not like festival lights and all this kind of crazy stuff. So
Totally.
let me ask you, everyone who goes to Denver, they always say they want to move there. Are you one of those people or do you still feel like Detroit will probably be your home?
Detroit's always gonna be my home for sure. Like, and especially in my heart. But I love Denver. I could see myself living there. I think I want like one of my favorite parts about music production and like this whole job and career is you can kind of do it from anywhere. So I'd love to. What I thought about is maybe like living there for like a month or two, and maybe living in Austin or somewhere in Texas for a month or two, and then LA. But Denver, it's so cool because you're like in the city. Number one, it's an amazing city. The restaurants, the food, people, the graffiti, like the breweries, everything is so cool. And then you can just go like an hour away and you're in the mountains and like
Yeah.
we were sitting on this log when I was up there hiking and like a giant moose came like 5 feet away from us and it's like I don't know where else you can get that, you know, it's crazy.
Right. Oh my gosh, yeah. And speaking of pumpkins, you have those really big pumpkins. Have you decided what you're gonna cut into them? Like, are you a good pumpkin carver?
I am. I consider myself an artist.
Oh, okay.
Well, I have carved quite a few pumpkins in my day. The big ones, I've never carved a big one. It's already kind of weird enough for me to like get the guts out when you're like cutting it open, and for a big one.
So are you fully put your hand in it? Or you're not one of those people who's scared, like you full on.
Oh, I don't have a little. No, I just.
Okay.
Like, pull it up. Yeah.
What's your
definitely grossed
technique?
me out
Do
a
you
little
use a
bit.
knife or do you use a pattern? Like.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So the way I learned is like you kind of do a little pattern on the top, so it'll like fit in there afterwards, and then scoop everything out. But haven't started this year. Still not quite sure what I want the design to be, but as soon as I figure that out, going right in.
And what about your Halloween costume? You still undecided?
Still undecided. Still undecided. I have a few ideas. One of them, my friend is thinking about being Velma, and I was thinking about being not Scooby-Doo. Who's the other dude? Oh man,
Shaggy.
Shaggy. Yeah, it's got flow and everything, but we'll see. I'm not sold on it quite yet.
But anyway, so back to some of your releases this year. So you've had some releases on some really incredible labels already. Insomniac, Mousetrap. You've even worked with Trauma and Confession. So like, where do you go from there? Like, do you have a dream label that you're like still kind of hoping for?
Well, I'm definitely like open to releasing on more labels. Like a lot of pretty much any big artist, they all have their own labels. Like Tiesto has his own label, AC has his own label, and all of those, when the opportunity is right, I would definitely be down for that. But I think the next step for someone in my position is kind of like doing my own thing and kind of paving my own way with my sound and having like what I'm really interested in is having the ability to put on artists that I really believe in because there's so many people now who send me music. And like a lot of all my favorite songs I've heard lately are by these producers who like have no followers. Or they're not really like they're new to the game, but their production style is like super dope and they're making awesome songs. So I'd love to be able to help them in a way beyond just like giving them feedback through email and stuff like that. Like be able to basically show them to my audience and even greater audience and expose the world to how dope I think they are. So that's kind of the goal for the future, but nothing is kind of set in stone quite yet.
So like you're kind of toying with the idea of a label or not sure yet, but you just still want to support some of these smaller artists.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll definitely have my own label at some point. It's just getting the timing right and having everything roll out in the right way and like just making sure everything makes sense and we have all our boxes checked when we start to do it. Because it's a big undertaking to to start a label, especially with like just all the time it takes, all the resources, and especially to do it properly.
Yeah.
Takes a bit of time. So yeah,
Well,
just
there's a lot of time now.
yeah, exactly.
I was like, 2021, everyone's gonna be announcing their labels because they had all of 2020 and they weren't touring and stuff. But
Facts, totally.
that's super awesome because, like I said, like I feel like have had like a astronomical like rise. You've kind of hit all of these labels that upcoming artists kind of really dream to release on, and you've already done it. So it's like, yeah, like where do you go from there? How do you feel that like living in Detroit has really influenced like your music?
That's a great question. I think coming up in Detroit, like going to shows early on, I was exposed to a certain style of music that a lot of people I don't think were. Like I kind of my interest grew in the electronic music scene like during the EDM kind of boom, where there were a lot of these more like EDM DJs touring around the country, but I was going to like Movement or usually
Right.
electronic music festival where there's a lot of this techno, a lot of this classic house. And that's what they play at a lot of the clubs around here all the time. Just this more classic Detroit style of house. So I think like number one, I was exposed to a much wider range of that music. And then secondly, there's already a really tight knit foundation of people who love that kind of music here. And I feel it like when I've been kind of coming up, people really want to support more artists coming out of the Detroit scene, especially in the house lane.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of just continuing to push that envelope and like solidify Detroit's name as like one of the biggest cities for house music. Because it was originally known for techno. Like this is where kind of techno originated, and the house scene kind of grew from there. But now there's a lot of other people doing cool stuff in the house scene. So I'm really, really like grateful to have been growing up here, and I'm grateful for all the support that everyone around Detroit and Michigan has been giving me because it feels really cool to be part of like something bigger. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really cool. It is interesting how where your geographic location and your age, how can really determine your entry point into electronic music.
Totally, totally, and especially like when all the DJs come through here. So like before I was releasing music, I like one example is before I had any music out, I had a few of my songs made, my first songs that would end up being my first Confession EP. And Drezzo was playing at the Grasshopper. We were discussing the Grasshopper earlier, and I got the chance to like meet him there and hand him a USB stick, and that's how like our relationship kind of grew. Because he was like, "Oh shit, this is dope," and so I had that chance to meet like the Bijous, all these other DJs who come through Detroit, and it's just like 20 minutes away from me. Where some kids, whether they live in other parts of the world or other parts of the U.S., they don't really have access to shows like that. So super grateful for that too.
Oh man, that's really awesome. Drezzo was like one of my first like big DJs that I had a huge crush on and was a big fan of. For like deep dark house and stuff. So what was your first show then? Like who was the first artist you saw?
That is a good question. Well, I think one of my very first shows, it was like an Excision show. It was a bass show around here in Royal Oak, right outside Detroit. But I think one of my first ones was like Movement. Like didn't really.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I didn't know what we were getting into, and I just went with a few friends, and you're just exposed to so much. Like you go to one stage and it's like cool kind of house, and you go to another like underground stage and it's just like fucking industrial, crazy techno.
Yeah.
I didn't even know like this existed.
I loved Movement. I was very sad when Movement got canceled this year because one of my favorite artists, Jamie XX, was gonna play, and like MK, like I still think about it sometimes and weep. But yeah, that festival, especially, I love that it's like in the city and you're like walking like literally on concrete. So you really are in Detroit, and then you see everyone like the Detroit Hustle Harder. They're like all shuffling and stuff. It's like actual like city techno. Like it's not all the people. They're just like regularly dressed, and yeah, I really like that festival. It was sad.
I know, me too. Especially now that I'm living like right in downtown, I was like, it would have been really sweet for it to happen this year. But everything happens for a reason, and I think it'll make us all a lot more like grateful and really cherish the moments at these next festivals when they do happen. Because it's like, I think a lot of people, like me included, took that stuff for granted.
Oh yeah. I know. I think, especially like working in this industry, like you get to meet and you get to see so many people, probably more people that we'll see in their lifetime, and so like realistically, like we probably have seen more shows and gone to more events than other people, but we're still
Sure.
like, I still miss it so much. But
Totally.
so going back to like Detroit and like producing, like who would you say has been some of your most influential artists that have really inspired you?
That is a good question. I know definitely from like one of the guys who came here through Detroit who really inspired me early on was like Claude Von Stroke and his style of house music and just how he like would like just get the whole crowd moving. I thought that was really crazy, and I was like, that's kind of when I started to really like house music. The golf clap guys who live around here, they definitely inspired me too, just from like a DJ perspective, because those guys are like are legends in the city. So it's been really cool to learn from them, have their support. But definitely from like a musical perspective, seeing artists like Chami and Drezzo come through the city, they kind of had that style of house music that I kind of messed with a little more, because I grew up like liking bass music, and then I started to like get into that like this, like maybe it's the Detroit part of me, but like kind of like 128 BPM house kind of techno stuff, and they bridge that gap where it's like the heavy kind of like, I don't know, dirty, darker kind of stuff at that house tempo. And that's when I was really like, fuck, I want to make this stuff. I think I have like ideas for how to do some stuff like this. So yeah, Chami, Jaws, Drezzo, all those guys, and yeah, they're still all inspirations.
I know I'm excited for Chami's announcing his debut album. I'm like, wait, Chami doesn't have an album out yet? I feel like, he's been putting out so much music, but yeah, some people you have to put out a full LP yet.
Yeah, it's a big step for an artist. So yeah, I'm really excited for that too. It's gonna be big for him.
Yeah. So how long have you been producing? Like, what was that moment that you had that we were like, this is what I want to do for my career?
That's a good question. I think, well, I started producing in college a little bit, just because I was like, I thought it was so cool, and I like really loved like what Skrillex was doing when I was in college. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna try and learn how to do it a little bit. Got Ableton and kind of started to figure out some of the basic stuff, but I wasn't making anything that was that cool, and I didn't really push myself to really learn, because I had this like thought inside of me that like, for some reason, I wouldn't be able to do it, or I didn't have what it took, or like I wasn't one of the chosen ones because I wasn't rich. I didn't learn piano at age 6, all these things. So I was like, I'll never actually be able to do that. So I did a little bit in college, just for fun. And then I graduated college and like worked a real job, a full 9 to 5 and stuff. And I was working.
What did you work in?
Technology sales. So that was when I went to Boston. And then I went to this startup after that, where I was doing the same thing. And we just worked so hard at this startup, like 7 days a week, all day, every day. I was like sleeping in this office just so I could get as much work done as possible. And then at the end of that, this startup ended up failing. We couldn't get the technology to work. And so after that, I was just like thinking, I was like, what do I want to do with my life? And every night when I would drive home from the startup, when I did drive home at like 1 a.m., in the darkness, like alone on the highway, I was like listening to like bumping house music, just picturing myself playing it live, because I was so inspired by it, and it made me more happy than anything else. And so when the startup failed, I was like, if I can work this hard on a logistics technology platform that I really don't care about, if I work that hard at music, I know I can at least make like something happen. So that's when I was like, fuck it. I moved back in with my mom, just became like a hermit for like a year and a half, and just did nothing but music, and just like remaking my favorite artist songs, watching tutorials, just trying stuff and learning. And then eventually it kind of started to stick. I finally had some songs where I was like, I think this is actually kind of dope now. Because when you first make them, you're like, this is cool, but like it doesn't really measure up. And so I finally had some stuff I thought was cool, finally started to kind of get it signed. And that's when I was like, more and more, like every day there's something happens where I'm like, another piece of like confirming that like, all right, I think, I can do this. I see the light in the tunnel, like I can do it. I believe in myself. So
what were you using to practice and make your songs on? Were you just using your like laptop and Ableton, or you didn't have?
Yep. That's all I do now. I have a piano behind me that I use just to do some like simple stuff and like learn music theory a little bit, but I just do everything on the laptop.
That's cool. You can like be mobile and stuff.
Exactly.
So I feel like your story is very similar. A lot of people have that same, like, they're working in a job that they don't like and they really want to like transition to music. Like, what would your advice to them be?
My advice for anyone who wants to do this stuff, it would be, it'd be the same advice I'd give my younger self. It'd be like, if you want to do it, you can. There aren't chosen ones. There's nothing special about, like your favorite artist. There's nothing different about you than them. The only difference is that they believe in themselves so much that they know when they're putting hours in the studio, it's going to happen. There's no, like a lot of people are worried that if they go all in, they might like look like a failure. Or if they start posting about the music on social media and it doesn't work out, people are going to they're going to be embarrassed or something. But they should just know that if they want it, they can make it happen. There's no stopping them. The only thing that between them and their dreams is just like 100 hours of hard work. And if they want to do it, they can. So yeah, my advice would be just chase what feels really good inside and do it the best that you can, and really focus on what makes you unique and what makes you happy and what makes you want to move, because you can create music that no one else can. You have something inside of you that no one else does. So focus on that and like let that come out of you, and I think you'll be able to do whatever you do want to do,
I really love that, especially like right now. I feel like a lot of people are probably struggling, but again, like, now's the time to really, so like you were being a hermit. We're all hermits right now. Like, I imagine right now someone is stuck in their bedroom because they don't want to go outside to be the next biggest producer because they're actually putting the time into it.
Exactly. Yeah, it just takes time. It just takes learning, and anything is possible.
All right, so I'm gonna ask you one more question because I am notorious for doing hour-and-a-half long interviews because I get really so my final question for you, and I will let you go, is two questions, last two questions.
Yep.
One, if there is anything you can change about the music industry, what would it be? And then the last one is, what do you want your music to say about you? Like, what is the message?
If I could change one thing about the music industry, I would. Good question. I don't know if I would change anything, because I think if I changed something, it wouldn't be like what it is today. Like, there's all sorts of things that I think people could say, like, I wish it was more about the music, or I wish there was like less of a requirement on like social media and all this stuff. But I think the music industry, it's based on like people, like all the people who enjoy the music, people like you and like me when I'm not producing as just a fan. And there's so many fans, and the fan base of the whole electronic music community as a whole is growing all the time. So I think there's just room to do whatever you want to do. So to be honest, I don't think I'd change a thing about it. But what I want my music to say about me, the whole reason I started making music is like, for my whole life, since I was like a kid, music has always been a way for me to like escape reality. Like in the most difficult, challenging situations, like music was always there to help transport me to somewhere different. Like when I was driving home from that startup, I was visioning myself somewhere else. And in the best moments of my life, music was always there too, helping to create the memory, whether that was at a festival or whether that's running with my headphones. So that's what music is to me. It's like an escape from where you currently are to somewhere better. And it kind of takes you out of reality. And that's what I try and do with my music. Create these like atmospheres and these worlds that transport you somewhere else. And that's what I love about it.
Well, I certainly love your music, and I'm really glad we got to talk again, and that you were one of the last DJs I saw on Ship. So thank you so much.
Thank you. This was awesome.
I'm really excited to hear a mix.